Hello, I'm Adrian, and in this lesson I want to get you thinking about playing and improvising all over the fretboard of the guitar. I think as guitarists, most of us have our favourite spots on the neck, our favourite positions and patterns, those places where we feel comfortable and the music just seems to flow out, and all of those hot licks are right there under your fingers. And then there are other places on the neck which are a bit more mysterious, and you kind of find yourself getting lost, and it's not so easy to find any good music. So I suppose the ultimate goal for any guitarist is to be able to play anything they can possibly imagine anywhere on the guitar. And I'm not going to claim that I'm going to be able to teach you how to do that in a couple of brief lessons, but hopefully what I can do is give you a couple of new ways of thinking about organising the fretboard and show you some ways that you might go about practicing that particular skill. So I'm going to split this over a couple of different videos. In this video I just want to focus on the idea of octave shapes, what they are, why they might be useful to you, and how to find them on the guitar. And then in a second video I'm going to be applying that concept to actual music. I'm going to show you how you can take some simple musical phrases or licks and then move them about all over the fretboard. But let's get started on this idea of octave shapes then. And I think a lot of guitar players tend to overcomplicate things when it comes to organising the fretboard on the guitar, particularly when it comes to scales, and you find yourself learning hundreds of fingerings in all the different keys, and pretty soon you get bogged down and your brain is fried by trying to process all of this information. I think it's a lot simpler in many ways just to sort of take a step back and try and see the bigger picture of how the fretboard is organised, and you start to see various patterns and symmetries and repeated shapes, and that really makes it a lot easier to understand, I think. So my favourite way of doing that is just to use octave shapes, and if you kind of boil it down to essentials, there are really just two octave shapes that you need to know, which will kind of unlock the entire fretboard. So let me show you those shapes. First thing we need to do, if we're going to be improvising or playing anything at all, we need to know what key we're in, and we need to know where our root notes are. So for this lesson, let's work in the key of A, and let's start with this A note here. That's the 5th fret on the low E string. That's going to be our starting note. And let's look at our first octave shape. Looks like this. We've got our first A note, and then we've got another A, which is at the 7th fret on the D string. So notice that particular finger shape. We're playing our index finger on the low E, and then the 3rd finger is 2 frets higher and 2 strings over. So we're kind of skipping a string, going up 2 frets, and we've got the octave. So that's our first octave shape, outlining that little portion of the neck. And what we can then do is move exactly that same shape to some other locations on the neck. Why don't we play the same shape up here? So this time we're starting with our lowest note on the A string, that's the 12th fret on the A string, and our octave is the 14th fret on the G string. Exactly the same octave shape. You've got your index finger and 3rd finger. 3rd finger is you skip a string, go up 2 frets. And we can just continue that process. Why don't we start with this A note here, 7th fret on the D string, and if we use exactly the same finger shape, we end up with this, which isn't an octave. We need to play the higher note 1 fret higher. So I've got my A at the 7th note on the D, and then I'm playing the 10th note on the B. So it's a slight variation on our initial shape, and the reason for that is just the way the guitar is tuned. All of the pairs of strings are tuned to be an equal distance apart from when you get to the B string, which is tuned to a different interval. So what you have to do whenever you kind of cross over the B string on the guitar is you need to compensate for that by playing 1 fret higher. So that's the reason why when we're going over onto the B string, that octave shape has changed slightly. So that's the shape there. Index finger, I'm using my little finger, it's now 3 frets higher. It's still 1 string skip over. That's our 3rd octave shape. Then we can find one more of these shapes. If we start with this A note here, it's the 2nd fret on the G string, and then we've got our octave at the 5th fret on the high E string, and that's exactly the same shape as the previous one. So we've got 4 shapes there, starting on the low E string, then on the A string, then starting on the D, and then on the G. So 4 octave shapes. The second two, the higher note is 1 fret higher, but really I'm just considering that all to be the same basic shape, and we're just compensating for that B string tuning thing. So those are our first 4 shapes. There are 3 more shapes which are going to be useful to you. Let's take a look at this one. We're starting with that same A note, 5th fret on the low E string, and we can play an octave like this. I'm playing the A at the 2nd fret on the G string, so that's another shape. I'm playing that with my little finger, then skipping 2 strings and going down 3 frets to find the octave there. And we can do the same thing with this shape. We can shift it onto other sets of strings. So we could play the same shape here. That's the 12th fret on the A string and then the 10th fret on the B string. Again, because we're going over onto the B string, that the shape has changed slightly and we're playing that B string note 1 fret higher, but it's really the same shape. Played there. Then we can do that one more time, start on the D string at the 7th fret and then play the 5th fret on the high E string for our next octave shape. So we've got another batch of shapes there, 3 different shapes. Or if you prefer, it's really 3 of the same shape, just played in different places. So there we have it, 7 different octave shapes, or 2 different shapes if you prefer. And that's all I want you to be concerned with for now. I want you to get comfortable with those 7 different shapes. Make sure you can find them on the fretboard. And we'll develop this a bit further in the next video.